What is going on, guys? I want you to engage in a little thought experiment with me today. I want you to take a minute to think about your favorite hero from your most favorite story. That may be somebody like, I don't know, Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, King Arthur, whoever it may be. And I want you to think about why that story is so compelling. We as men get really interested in hearing stories about guys who start off here, kind of a normal, regular life, and then they're presented with a problem. And part of what makes them so heroic is that they overcome that problem. They defeat the enemy, they conquer the foe, they take whatever this problem was and they completely vanquish it. That is why we're so addicted to these stories, because we see men who we think might be like us and we see them do hard, difficult, and worthwhile things. Now, one of the things that each one of these men receives as part of his story in this heroic journey is tools to help him along the way. Think about Harry Potter receiving the wand.
This.
Or Luke Skywalker getting his lightsaber.
A blaster. An elegant weapon.
Or King Arthur getting Excalibur.
It's a miracle.
Part of the process and part of the journey of these heroes is receiving the right tools to help them overcome this challenge or this obstacle that's preventing them from becoming the ultimate person or the ultimate character, the hero that they're destined to be. Now think about what this is in your own life. You know, if you're like me, you don't have these big, epic enemies in your life. Most men don't. Most men throughout history haven't. Yes, we love hearing stories about men who go through this heroic journey, but for most of us, that's not the case. But that does not mean that we don't have enemies, that we don't have problems, that we don't have things that we need to conquer within our lives. Now, if you're like most men, especially most men in the 21st century where our lives are relatively easy, then one of the biggest problems that you have to conquer is mediocrity or complacency. Does that ring a bell for you at all? Do you feel like your life, the challenge of your life, is not becoming mediocre, is not becoming average, is not becoming complacent and just lackadaisical about what your life is? Do you want to be better today than you were a year ago? Do you want to be entirely better 5 years from now than you were 5 years ago? I know I certainly do, and I think most men do. We have this desire, we have this innate desire to take this heroic journey that we see and apply that to our own lives, even if that means that our problems and our enemies are much more subtle than Voldemort or Darth Vader. Now I want you to think about what are some of the tools that can help you in your heroic journey, in your ultimate goal of conquering mediocrity, completely removing complacency, and no longer being an average man. It may be something as big as having a fulfilling and exciting and honestly like envy-inducing career. I know for a lot of guys, myself included, that the idea of doing loans for a credit union, which is something I did for 7 years, if that were my destiny, I would hate it. I hated it when I was there. I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to do something better with my life. It may be something as simple as you want to have a family. You want to have a wife who loves and respects you, and you want to have kids who adore you and want to grow up to be like you. It may be that you want to have a good group of guy friends and you travel the world and you go on adventures and you do epic things. I don't know what superseding average looks like to you, and ultimately it doesn't matter. Because in your toolkit of being able to overcome mediocre, of being able to rise above complacency, one of the tools, one of the many tools, is your wardrobe. You know, think about it this way. Dressing well, it's not just a hobby. It's not just for guys who have either the money or the desire to wear suits all the time or to have a wardrobe that's so big that it rivals any woman's. That's not what I'm talking about when I say your wardrobe can help you conquer mediocrity. In fact, that's why I tell men to dress intentionally. The phrases dress up or dress well have a very particular connotation. Usually, it means that we're thinking of formal clothing, like you have to wear a suit all the time, or that it's just the opposite of not wearing cargo pants, and that somehow it creates this false binary of there are only two ways that a man can dress in this life: cargo pants and flip-flops, or a suit. And that if you're not here you're over here, and those are your only two options, which is a totally erroneous line of thinking. And unfortunately, that reasoning makes millions and millions of men miss out on a super easy opportunity to improve their lives, to get over average. And yes, dressing more intentionally can absolutely improve your life, and not just the way that you look, but improve almost every single aspect of your life. It can help you land that job or command a room or even attract the woman of your dreams. Over the past 5 years, as I've helped thousands of men learn to dress more intentionally, I've had the opportunity to recognize a few common threads between the majority of my clients and my readers. And the biggest one is that most men don't want to dress in a way that makes us stand out. Yes, we want to look great. We want to be attractive. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to look respectable, but we don't want to stand out. In fact, most guys would rather not hear a compliment like, "That's a really great suit," or "I love your shoes, tell me where you got those." Hearing that may even make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, because we don't want our clothing to detract from the essence of who we are as people. And for a lot of men, dressing too well or dressing up too much, again, not dressing intentionally, but dressing up too much, can have your clothing not be something that contributes to your presence and contributes to your presentation of who you are as a man, but detracts or distracts from it. And sure, there are plenty of guys who do want to dress up and stand out. If you're one of those guys, I love helping guys like you out. We can have a lot of fun. But for most guys, the idea of dressing ostentatiously or flamboyantly or in a way that's attention-seeking doesn't really jive. It's not necessarily a right or a wrong thing, it just doesn't line up with most guys' desires when it comes to thinking about dressing better or looking great. What you probably want is to look good, confident, and respectable, and not have your clothing make you stand out either negatively or positively. Now, one of the reasons that I personally know that dressing up is not the same as dressing intentionally is because I learned this the hard way. I want you to think back to what it was like to be a teenager, and like an awkward teenager. Not, I'm a senior in high school and I've got the world figured out and I can't wait to graduate and go to college and I'm almost an adult. Not that kind of a teenager. Like 7th or 8th grade, when everybody looks weird and you can't decide if you're more of a child or an adult, and you're really trying to figure out what your identity is and who your friends are and all these other things, like that kind of awkward teenager. Well, I spent those years attending a school that required that we wear a uniform. But here's the thing, my friends at home, we were much more interested in BMX and punk rock than in Latin or poetry. And when my friends at home would see me get back from school wearing gray slacks, a white shirt, a tie, and a navy blazer, it was very easy, and it happened very quickly, that I became the runt of our pack. Now, of course, the clothes weren't the only factor. Things like my fear of rejection, or the fact that I was a little bit smaller and scrawnier than my friends, or just my desire to fit in with people who weren't necessarily my family, all contributed to it, but each one of those elements was exacerbated by the fact that I didn't look like the rest of my friends, that I dressed up and stood out, and I didn't look like I was part of our tribe. And as good of an experience as that was for me, as great as some of those friends are, and we all have a lot of regrets from that time, and we got past it as our friendship grew stronger, I don't want to go back to that. I would never want to relive those years. Because during those years, during that experience, I learned that dressing up can have just as much of a negative consequence as dressing down or dressing too casually. Now, since then, I've been through almost every extreme, from wearing clothes that both made me look and feel way too sloppy and slovenly, to gaining a reputation as the style guy and all the things that can come with that, including making people feel uncomfortable because they thought that I was always assessing them and always evaluating them based on their clothing, to finally finding the balance and knowing that I can almost always look great without having to put in a ton of energy or money or effort, or even just making other people feel like they're not measuring up and they don't want to be around me. There are ways to make things as simple as a t-shirt and jeans look like something a movie star or an action hero would wear. By focusing on things like fit, pattern, and color, knowing a few key items that will look good on any man in any part of the world, and they're not trendy, they're timeless, they will look great almost always. and then factoring in the right balance between individuality and fitting in, I've been able to help thousands of men take their appearance from being good and stylish, or even worse, this huge negative, into becoming something that's deadly effective. Now, I know you're probably thinking that what I'm about to do is draw some really hard lines in the sand. And I get that, because those hard lines exist in the world, and they seem to exist even more when it comes to appearance and aesthetics and style. But don't worry, I'm not gonna tell you that the only way to dress intentionally is to go into your closet and burn everything that's in there and start over from scratch. Nor am I going to say that you have to go buy 3 suits and those are the only things you're ever allowed to wear again. I'm not going to tell you that you have to go spend thousands of dollars, and most importantly, I'm also not going to give you recommendations that when you come out of the fitting room wearing them, you feel like a fake or a fraud. On the next video, what I am going to do is give you some key examples of what it looks like to dress intentionally and help you so that you can start reaping the benefits of that immediately. I'm gonna go through a few outfits that are based on these core items that everybody should have, show you how you can mix and match them so that they can work with your own given style, depending on where you are in the world or the people that you spend your time with, or ultimately what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your life. And then I'm going to help you understand how to take your own personal style and convert it into something that tells the story that you want it to, so that your appearance is always an asset and never a liability. But before that video, here's what I need from you. And this applies whether you are just now realizing that you don't want to wear cargos and flip-flops anymore, or you feel like you have this style stuff pretty well figured out. Leave me a comment below and tell me just how you believe that you will be able to improve your life. You'll be able to conquer average, you'll be able to rise above complacency and mediocrity by dressing better. What opportunities will it present to you that you haven't already taken advantage of? What ways will it improve your life, and why have you not already started to do this? What are your hang-ups that have prevented you from doing it thus far? I can't wait to show you guys the next video and give you some examples of simple, real-life outfits that look great on everyone.